So today's topic is using Google safely. So the objective of today is to inform you of ways that your data is at risk while using Google, provide tools to help you navigate Google safely, and show you settings that you can adjust to make sure your browsing experience is more secure. Okay, so there are many risks when using Google. For example, data leaks. Google collects a lot of your data. For example, the websites you visit or your history or etc. And so Google is extremely good at protecting that data, but there is always a risk of that data leaking. The best way to keep yourself safe from this is just to be aware and do not store any sensitive information directly on your Google account. For example, personal information, passwords, etc. And so cookies. One type of data that Google stores is a cookie. So every time you make a search in Google, a cookie is stored. This cookie gives Google information about the websites you visit and your search history. That information is also linked to any Gmail accounts that have logged in on your device. Google also uses its analytics to determine patterns about your internet use. This is information that gives Google its advertising power. For example, if you look at a lot of websites with like dog products or something like that, it'll recommend you ads for dog products, something like that, pet products, etc. This data is extremely beneficial for marketers looking for customer insights and targeting people with ads on Google and beyond. All right, Gmail. So the content of users' Gmail messages is tracked to improve relevance and targeting of ads and to block spam emails. This mail isn't read by a human being, only computers analyze this information. But even if computers are the only ones to see the data, it is still being tracked and stored. Google Chrome. Using all Google products like Gmail, Google Search, and Google Chrome browser means that more data for Google because all your activity within the browser can be then linked to your Google account. Incognito mode. Okay, so Chrome's incognito mode is often taken as a means to protect user privacy. For example, it doesn't keep websites from tracking users' data of visitors. While Chrome browser itself won't store your browsing history, the sites you visit can still gather your information. So even though incognito offers you slightly more privacy, websites can still track you. So the gist is that Google has the capacity to collect a lot of information about you and basically your online footprint. Google uses this data mostly for advertising purposes, but that doesn't mean but even though Google tracks you, this doesn't mean you shouldn't use Google, but it does mean that you should be conscious of Google's practices when using the search engine and other Google programs. So one way you can keep yourself safe is Safe Search. Safe Search can help you filter explicit content from your results. When Safe Search is on, it helps you filter explicit content in Google search results for all your queries across images, videos, and websites. How can you also keep yourself safe? First off is don't save your password on your Chrome browser. Use a password manager. Don't save your passwords on a Google account. For example, there's usually a notification where Google asks if it can save your password and remember you. You probably shouldn't allow Chrome to do that and instead save it yourself. In the rare case that your account information is leaked or hacked, someone could have an enormous amount of information on you, including your logins, a dangerous combination. Also, I just want to note on this slide is that if you use the same password for all your websites, and if you, for example, Google Chrome has a data leak or breach, then if a hacker gets one of your passwords, they essentially get all your passwords for all your accounts. And that's the reason why you shouldn't use a single password. Okay, how can you keep yourself safe? First, use a passphrase to protect your saved Google data. A passphrase is a sentence you make up that you will need to enter whenever you want to sync your account with a new device. By setting up a passphrase, you can add an extra layer of security to your account. Second is disable sync. Rather than protecting syncing data with a passphrase, you can also just disable it altogether. Being signed into Google doesn't necessarily mean your data has to be collected across your devices. You can actually turn off the sync feature. Syncing helps you view the same information on mobile device as well as other computers, but it's entirely your choice to opt out of this useful feature, making it harder for Google to track you. Second, how can you keep yourself safe? Well, you can simply not sign into Google. Another step in further preventing Google from collecting data on you is to simply not be signed in. This option can come with disadvantages though, because while Google won't track your information, your search relevancy won't be as good as Google can't properly analyze your patterns. Third, how can you keep yourself safe? Turn off your web history. You probably turned on the web history option known as personalized search when you first created your Google account. This means that Google may be storing a personalized search history of you. Google does not use this data to target ads. It uses a separate search history, which is essentially anonymous for that. Google doesn't technically use this information, but the data stored from your web history is stored forever, unless you turn it off or delete its contents. How can you keep your, and so the fourth thing you can do, I think this is the fourth thing, is opt out of interest-based ad serving. When Google builds its profile for you, it assigns categories to decide what ads to show you. You can remove these interest categories by visiting your ad preferences page. Using Google's privacy checkup feature. So if you want to find out what information you are currently sharing with Google, you can go through Google itself. Using a privacy checkup regularly allows you to see what information is being shared with Google and what accounts you may have linked. Once you know what information is being shared, you are in a better position to make changes to those settings and protect your data you share with those services. The sixth thing is you can clear your browser data. To protect yourself from IRL data risk rather than online ones, you can also clear your browsing data frequently. You can choose to delete your cookies, cached images, stored information, autofill data, browsing history, etc. That way, if someone steals or borrows your laptop, they'll never be able to know what sites you were on your logins. And so the seventh way is just don't use Google. If you're really concerned about your data, the simplest way to protect yourself from Google is to not use it. You can use an alternative search engines like DuckDuckGo or Escocia for your searching and other browsers like Firefox, Edge, or Safari for surfing the internet. There are also other email services you can use instead of Gmail. In general, mixing up your services and not being entirely devoted to one company makes it harder for anyone to create a cohesive data profile on you.